Elon Musk stepped off the stage at the big global tech summit feeling a mix of excitement and unease. He had just unveiled his newest electric jet prototype, and the audience had given him a warm round of applause. Yet in the back of his mind, he couldn't stop thinking about something he had learned earlier that week. Late one night, while scanning through a set of private messages on an encrypted channel, he had seen hints of a project backed by close aides to the First Lady Melania Trump. The project was not about fashion or children's art programs, as the public believed. It was about shaping future tech policy and carving out huge government contracts for a select group of companies. He knew that if this secret plan came to light, it would change everything at the White House. As Elon walked toward the green room, his phone buzzed with notifications. He glanced at the screen and saw hundreds of tweets and messages piling up. His mysterious tip had triggered a storm. He had simply posted one short line a few hours ago, curious what's hidden in White House tech plans. Stay tuned. That message had been enough to set social media ablaze. People were asking questions he did not answer. News outlets instantly began writing headlines. Technology columns speculated wildly. Political blogs spun theories. Even financial news channels cut into scheduled programming to discuss what Elon might know. In the press room downtown, reporters hurried to pack their bags. Cindy Alvarez, a veteran White House correspondent, hovered over her laptop in a flurry of activity. She tapped rapidly at the keys, her article taking shape even as she typed the first sentences. Elon Musk's cryptic tweet sends shockwaves. Through Washington, she wrote, then deleted it and started again. She had sources among insiders, but none of them would confirm details. She sighed and reached for a cup of coffee. The steam rose in front of her face, and she took a deep breath. This was the kind of story that could define a career but also ruin one if she got it wrong. At CNN headquarters, anchors adjusted their earpieces. The words "breaking news" glowed in red on the ticker. Across the screen, a live feed showed Elon Musk actually walking in a hallway, his hair slightly messy, his jacket buttoned too tight. The anchor's voice was tense. Could this tweet from the billionaire tech CEO reveal a hidden agenda inside the White House? Sources are working to verify the claims. Stay tuned as we dig deeper. Each time the broadcast cut back to Elon, the on-air experts chimed in with theories about what the First Lady might be up to. Some said she had quietly been promoting new regulations to favor a startup backed by friends of the Trump family. Others suggested she was building her own political power base, preparing for a post-White House career in government affairs. No one knew for sure. Meanwhile, inside the White House itself, things were far from calm. Staff members shuffled nervously down the long corridors, whispering in small groups. Senior aides checked their BlackBerries for new alerts. In the Situation Room, a special briefing had been called at the request of the First Lady's Chief of Staff. The door swung open, and a dozen people filed in legal counsel, communications directors, security experts. They took their seats. Around the polished oval table, papers rustled, and laptops illuminated anxious faces. "Thank you all for coming at such short notice," said Rebecca Hollis, Melania's chief of staff, her voice steady but strained. She looked at the group with concern. Elon Musk just tweeted something that could be very damaging. We need to know exactly what he has and how to respond. Kenneth Ford, the White House communications director, cleared his throat. He had spent the past year crafting carefully worded statements to shield the First Lady from controversy. "We've got someone digging into this right now," he said. "Our teams are trying to trace the source of Musk's information. Meanwhile, we need a holding statement, something to calm the media until we know more." Rebecca nodded. She tapped her pen against her notepad. "We need to find out if Melania's office has any connections to new tech policy discussions. If there's anything official, it has to be documented. If it's unofficial, we need to identify the channel it came through." As that meeting took place, back at Musk's green room, he studied the redacted documents he had brought. He had taken just enough screenshots to hint at the story without revealing classified details. He reviewed the references to a Project Aurora, an internal code name for a series of private dinners, and strategy sessions involving top White House aides, certain congressional staffers, and leaders of a handful of promising startups. The document suggested that during these meetings, Melania's team had quietly pushed for tax credits, favorable contracts, and research grants that would benefit a small circle of investors. Musk frowned at the text. It was clear someone wanted to influence the next round of tech regulations for personal gain. Evening light filtered through the windows as he paced the room. His mind raced. He knew the power of a single tweet, especially when it came from someone as influential as himself. He weighed the consequences. If he revealed too much, he might face accusations of leaking classified information. If he stayed silent, a major abuse of influence could slip by unnoticed. Finally, he opened his laptop and typed another brief message. See you all tonight at 7 p.m. on my live stream. I'll share what I can. That announcement spread like wildfire. Reporters scrambled to set up cameras and microphones outside his event location. Inside the White House, officials monitored the clock nervously. They knew that by 7 p.m., Elon would go live to millions of viewers, including journalists, politicians, and everyday citizens hungry for a scoop. The window for quiet damage control. It was closing fast. In a small office down the hall, a senior aide to the First Lady, Monica Reyes, replayed the late-night phone calls she had noticed. Over the past month, she had overheard conversations between Melania's communications director and a certain tech executive named Robert Lang. Those calls often happened around midnight, long after most staff had gone home. Monica had simply assumed they were about event planning or philanthropic initiatives. But now those calls looked far more suspicious. She could remember the soft hum of the secure line, Melania speaking in her calm, measured tone. Robert, let's ensure our friends are ready for the policy shift next quarter. We're all set. Monica had considered reporting it, but lacked concrete proof. Now she regretted not digging deeper. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the mood in Washington grew electric. Sidewalk cafes filled with journalists comparing notes. Twitter feeds exploded with speculation. The hashtag Musk reveals trended worldwide. Late-night talk show hosts prepared monologues, making fun of the whole spectacle while internet bloggers declared it the scandal of the decade. Meanwhile, in the West Wing, Rebecca Hollis and her team worked through a stack of briefing memos. They drafted potential talking points for Melania's next public appearance, rehearsed lines to deny any secret agenda, and prepared a request to the White House counsel's office to classify any sensitive documents. Every second counted. Elon, sitting at a modest podium in a small auditorium near the summit grounds, adjusted his microphone and smiled at the crowd. He had purposely kept the room intimate to minimize leaks. He surveyed the sea of smartphones pointed at him, each screen ready to beam his words to millions. A hush fell as the live stream began. Good evening, everyone, he said in his familiar drawl. I want to talk to you about something that affects us all. How power and influence are used behind closed doors. You've heard a lot of rumors today about the First Lady's involvement in tech policy. I believe you deserve the truth, or as much of it as I can share right now. Clicked a button, and the screen behind him lit up with a blurred document. The audience leaned forward in their seats. Elon continued. This is part of a set of documents I received. They refer to Project Aurora, which, from what I can tell, involves pushing for certain regulations that would benefit a small group of firms. Those firms happen to be connected to people close to the White House. He paused, letting the information sink in. I'm not here to spread rumors or attack anyone personally. I simply think the American people deserve transparency. The clock in the room ticked toward 7:10. Back at the White House, aides held their breath as the live stream played on multiple screens. They saw Elon pointing at the blurred pages, explaining what little he could without breaking any laws. They exchanged worried glances. So much depended on how quickly they could respond. The lines between technology, politics, and personal ambition had always been thin, but tonight those lines felt razor-sharp. Outside in the cool evening air, crowds gathered around TVs in sports bars and living rooms. People who had never cared about White House politics found themselves hooked, waiting to see if Elon Musk would reveal more. Some cheered him on as a champion of transparency. Others criticized him for meddling in politics. The tension was palpable. And deep inside the White House, as part one of this unfolding drama came to a close, one thing was clear: the game had changed. Elon Musk's words had lit a fuse, and no one knew where the blast would land. The hidden agenda was no longer hidden, and the corridors of power were beginning to shake. Everyone from reporters on the street to aides in the Situation Room stood ready for the next move. Elon Musk's live stream began with a gentle click and a soft static hiss. The screen glowed and hundreds of thousands of devices around the world tuned in. He sat behind a simple desk. Two blurred documents hovered on a large screen behind him. His face was calm, but his eyes held a spark of urgency. He leaned forward and spoke in his familiar tone, clear and unhurried. "Thank you all for joining," he said. "I know many of you have questions." He paused to let his words settle. "Tonight, I want to share what I can about those documents I teased earlier. They refer to something called Project Aurora. Now, I cannot show you everything. Some details are classified. But I will tell you what I've learned and why I think it matters." He tapped a button. The first slide appeared, a faint watermark. The words "White House for Review" only half visible behind a gray rectangle. Underneath 3 lines of text: Initiative for Strategic Tech Policy Alignment. Lon pointed to the words with a quiet clicker sound. "Here is the title. Looks harmless. Strategic Tech Policy Alignment, but when you dig deeper it becomes more than harmless." He clicked again. Second slide appeared, this one showing a list of names and agencies. Some names were redacted, others clear. Line read: Millionaire. Trump's Office Consultant Liaison, Robert Lang. Below it, Senate Tech Council Draft Review. And then a bulleted list of startup names, companies too small to land big contracts on their own. Elon took a deep breath. See these names? They're small firms, yet they get tax breaks, research grants, and fast-track vendor status. Why? Because someone inside the White House is pushing for them. He tapped the clicker again, but the slide stayed. And that person appears to be the First Lady's office. A murmur rose from the live stream chat. Viewers typed questions. Is this true? Where did he get this? Show us more. Lon held up a hand to calm the crowd on screen. Patience, he said with a half smile. I will share what I can, but let me explain why this matters to all of us. He leaned back slightly. When small groups push through special deals, the bigger system shifts. Policies meant for everyone become perks for a few. It's not fair. It hurts innovation in the long run. It hurts trust. And it can undermine our democracy. Across town, in a sleek studio, political analysts watched the live stream on a big screen. Their faces reflected the glow of Elon's images. One analyst, a veteran named Jordan Price, folded his arms and shook his head. If these documents are legit, this is huge, he said. His co-anchor, Maria Singh, tapped her finger against her chin. The First Lady has always stayed neutral on policy. Now she's at the center of a major tech controversy. They exchanged worried glances as their network cut to a commercial break to rewrite talking points. Back on the live stream, Elon clicked again. A third slide appeared. This one showed annotated lines beneath the text. Tax credit adjustment request. Next to it, a note in small text. Increase credit cap from $5 million to $20 million for qualifying projects. Under that, a circled date, Q3 proposal, deadline June 15th. Elon pointed to the date, June 15th. He repeated, that is a recent deadline, and it came and went without much public notice. Yet these startup projects suddenly qualified for a 4-fold increase in tax credits. He tapped the slide. Think about that. Small group of firms got help meant for the entire industry. He paused. The silence felt heavy. Then he clicked the slide away. I want to be clear, I am not making this up. I did not plant these documents. They came to me through a trusted source who was concerned. I have no agenda beyond transparency. You deserve to see what is happening behind closed doors. Viewers typed rapidly in the chat. Trust him. He's a truth teller. But is he meddling? Others worried about the legality. Could he get in trouble? Has he shared classified info? A moderator scrolled through dozens of questions. Elon nodded. I've been careful, he said. I will not share anything that breaks the law. But I will keep pushing for more openness. Meanwhile, in the White House press office, alarms blared figuratively. The head of communications, Kenneth Ford, watched the live stream on a laptop. His brow creased. When Elon mentioned the June 15th deadline, Kenneth spoke into his phone. "Rebecca, you seeing this? They are talking about June 15th. We need to confirm if Melania's office even submitted anything." He tapped his earpiece. "Get me the communications logs." Now, Rebecca Hollis, the chief of staff, stood in a nearby conference room. She listened to Kenneth's update through the secure line. "I'll have the logs in 10 minutes, she replied. "Check all channels, email, phone logs, secure comms. We need timestamps."
Back on camera.
Elon shifted topics. He clicked yet again. A slide appeared with a blurred screenshot of an email thread. Subject line read, "Private Dinner Project Aurora." Below, in plain text, a note. "Thank you for hosting. Our guests will discuss tax incentives and vendor approvals." Elon pointed at the text box, which was darkened to hide names. "Here is an email," he said softly. It came from an address tied to the First Lady's office. It mentions guests and discussions about policy. It reads like a private meeting agenda. He lowered his voice. These dinners were not public events. They happened at night in private rooms. A few trusted aides and company heads. What did they discuss? Why were they kept secret? The chat exploded again. Some viewers cheered his courage. Others criticized him for leaking private conversations. Elon held up his hand and said, "I am not leaking private conversations. I am showing you basic facts. If you work in government, you know these things need oversight. They need to be on the record." At that moment, the live stream cut to a brief interruption. Elon's producer, signaling that the time was up. Elon spoke right over it. "One more thing," he said. He clicked to the final slide, a simple graphic, a question mark over a dark silhouette. Underneath the words, "What's next for Project Aurora?" He looked directly at the camera. "I will keep investigating," he promised. "I will share more if I can. But I encourage the White House to clarify.
Out.
If these claims are false, let them show the real documents. Let them explain. Let them prove that the First Lady's office acted above board. Because if they don't, trust will erode." The live stream ended with a fade to black. No applause. No flourish. Just Elon's words hanging in the air. The world was left waiting. In the minutes after, social media lit up. News websites updated their homepages. Musclive. First Lady's office pushed big tax breaks. Read one. White House under fire after tech CEOs reveal, said another. Opinion columns raced to comment. Some called Elon a hero. Others warned of political overreach. Journalists texted their sources. Politicians issued brief statements inviting calm. The narrative was everywhere. Inside the White House, Rebecca Hollis read transcripts of Elon's live stream. She felt her heart pound. She turned to Kenneth Ford. "We need to act fast," she said. He nodded. He had already drafted a tweet for the official White House account. The tweet would read, "Reports of improper influence are unfounded. We categorically deny any secret agenda. The First Lady remains committed to public service and transparency." Rebecca frowned. "That sounds defensive. Need to show evidence. Find any document that counters Elon's claims." "On it," Kenneth replied. He picked up the phone and dialed the archives. "Get me every memo from Project Aurora. Every page. I need to compare them to Musk's screenshots." Meanwhile, news crews gathered outside Melania's residence. Some set up cameras, others stood with notepads. They knew the First Lady might release a statement at any moment. Inside, Melania sat with her communications director, Sarah O'Brien. Sarah had spent the past hour reviewing press clippings. She looked up as the door opened. "They are calling for your statement," she said softly. Melania took a deep breath. She had always avoided the spotlight on policy matters. Now, she faced it head-on. She nodded and stood. Sarah handed her a prepared statement. Melania read it quickly. "I have never used my office to influence policy for personal gain. Any suggestion to the contrary is false. I have always acted in the best interest of our country. She paused. That is good, she asked. Sarah hesitated. It's clear. Yeah. But maybe add something about support for tech innovation and fairness. Melania nodded. Yes. Let's do that. Sarah updated the statement and sent it to the press office. Within minutes, the official White House account posted it. News alerts pinged across phones worldwide, yet the world did not calm. Questions kept coming. Elon Musk had opened a door. He had shown the public a glimpse of something hidden. The White House responded, but the response felt scripted. Many viewers wondered, did the First Lady's office truly do nothing wrong? Or was more waiting to be revealed? The clock ticked toward morning in Washington. Reporters stayed up, digging. Insiders whispered in hallways. And the live stream's echoes still resonated. Project Aurora was not over. It had only just begun. The Situation Room felt colder than usual. The long table in the center gleamed under harsh lights. Round it sat top aides, lawyers, and security experts. Rebecca Hollis took a deep breath and looked at each face. She knew she had to lead this meeting well. The stakes had never been higher. Elon Musk's livestream revelations were still echoing through every newsroom. Now the White House needed a plan, and fast. Rebecca began, her voice steady. She outlined the timeline of events. First, Musk's cryptic tweet, then his live stream with those redacted documents, and finally his public call for more information. Everyone in the room knew the pattern had to be stopped before it caused lasting damage. She clicked a remote, and the TV on the wall showed. A loop of news clips is the First Lady hiding a tech agenda. Musk claims secret dinners at the White House. Project Aurora linked to influential startups. The words felt like daggers. Kenneth Ford, communications director, shifted in his seat. He tapped his pen and said, "We need to control the narrative. If we react too slowly, we look guilty. If we react too aggressively, we look defensive." He paused. "I recommend we release a limited set of unclassified documents that counter his claims. We deny any private dinners or hidden agendas. We show our own transparency." A woman in a dark suit spoke up. She was from the legal team. "We must be careful. Some of those documents may be classified. We can't just release them without permission from the council. It could break protocol or even law." She folded her hands in front of her. "We need a clear legal path before we share anything." Another aide, Monica Reyes, leaned forward. She had been quietly listening, but now she spoke. "What about taking Musk to court? His claims are false. Wouldn't a defamation suit send a strong message?" She tapped her fingers on the table. It could force him to produce his full evidence under oath. Rebecca held up a hand. She looked at Monica thoughtfully. "That is a bold move, but we have to weigh its risk. Going to court draws out the fight. The press will cover it for months. Meanwhile, every day Musk drops hints or new leaks. We might end up in a prolonged public battle." The room was silent for a moment. Then an older advisor, someone who had worked in previous administrations, leaned back in his chair. "Sometimes it is better to let the story fade," he said. "If we address it directly, we give it life. People remember what they hear first. Musk has the advantage as the initiator. He frames the issue." Kenneth raised his eyebrows. "Then what? We do nothing and hope it blows over? That seems reckless. The story is spreading. Our silence could be seen as admission." He paused, then asked, "What about a middle path? We publish a brief statement denying the allegations and promise an internal review. That shows action without giving too much oxygen to Musk's narrative." Rebecca nodded slowly. "I like that idea. We deny, but we promise transparency. Then our team can work behind the scenes to confirm the truth and prepare fuller responses. If needed." She tapped her pen on the papers in front of her. "Next, we need to consider the source of Musk's documents. If we can find who leaked them, we might understand how to plug the hole." A security expert raised his hand. "We're running checks on all secure channels. We're also looking at access logs for classified files tagged Project Aurora. So far, we see 3 accounts access them in the past 2 weeks. We're narrowing it down." He tapped a tablet. "We should know more by tomorrow morning." Rebecca thanked him. She turned to the communications team. I want a holding statement ready in the next hour. Something like Kenneth suggested, we categorically deny any hidden agenda. We commit to an internal review of all tech policy discussions. We thank the public for patience. She wrote a few words on her notepad. After that, we push forward. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Elon Musk's inner circle was also moving fast. In a glass-walled office that overlooked the river, a few of his closest advisors gathered around a conference table. They had seen Rebecca's team meeting notes leak onto social media. It was clear the White House was planning a soft denial. An internal review? That would not stop Elon's momentum. One advisor, a sharp woman named Dana, looked at the screen. They're going to try to bury it with an internal review. They'll hope people forget. We can't let that happen. She leaned forward. We need to drop another bit of evidence soon. Something small but concrete. Make them scramble to respond. Another man, Raj, nodded. He'd been coordinating with their anonymous source inside Melanian's office. Our source can provide a meeting agenda from that private dinner. Lists the tech executives and the topics covered. It even has notes on tax incentives. We can share a redacted photo of the agenda page, enough to prove there was a private meeting. Elon's voice came through a speaker. His tone was calm. Let's do it, he said. But carefully. I don't want this to come across as vendetta. We simply reveal truth. We show the pattern. Private dinners, secret memos, special favors. He paused. Then we give them time to respond before the public judges. Raj smiled and tapped his tablet. I'll get the photo ready. We'll blur names, but keep the key lines visible. Tax incentives, vendor approvals. It will force the White House to react again. Dana stood up. We need a schedule. Let's plan to release it tomorrow morning. That gives us time to prep social media cycles and reach out to friendly reporters. She scribbled on a whiteboard. 8 a.m., photo release. 9 a.m., follow-up live stream, where Elon comments. 11 a.m., full blog post with analysis. She looked at Elon. Does that work? Elon nodded. Yes, keep it precise. No overreach. No speculation. Just facts. He gave a small smile. This is about accountability. We shine a light and let the world decide. Back in the White House, Rebecca's team had drafted the holding statement. Kenneth read it aloud. The First Lady's office has never sought to influence tech policy for private gain. Any suggestion otherwise is false. We are conducting a thorough internal review and will share results with the public as soon as possible. He frowned. It feels bland. People might dismiss it. Rebecca tapped her pen at a line about her long record of supporting technology, education, and public service. That shows her commitment. Kenneth nodded and typed a new version. They sent it to the press office, and within minutes, it went live. On every major network, the statement flashed across screens. Social media accounts posted it. Journalists commented. Some said it was a strong denial. Others noted the promise of an internal review, but many asked, will they really share the results, or will it vanish into a drawer? At the same time, in a small cafe near the Capitol, political bloggers gathered around laptops. They watched the tweet storm. Some cheered Elon. Others doubted his motives. The chatter was electric. Partisans argued. Independents asked for proof. One blogger posted, White House soft denial will not stop #Musk reveals. Expect more leaks. Inside the Situation Room, Rebecca watched the newsfeed on her tablet. She saw the White House statement broadcast. She felt a pang of relief. At least they had responded quickly. But she knew it was only the start. Night. They would prepare for more. She turned to Kenneth. Get ready. I expect more from Musk in the morning. Sighed and nodded. As midnight approached, staffers trickled out of the Situation Room. Rebecca stayed behind, going over logs of document access. She needed to find the leak. She scrolled through lists of user IDs, IP addresses, timestamps. She prayed the culprit was among the 3 flagged accounts. If they could identify who accessed Project Aurora documents, they might stop the drip of information. Meanwhile, Elon's allies prepared the agenda photo. They blurred the margins to hide irrelevant text. They cropped it to show only the date, the phrase Private Dinner Project Aurora. And bullet points, tax credits, vendor approvals, R&D grants, they saved it as a secure file. Tomorrow, at 8 a.m., they would set it free. In both camps, the nights stretched long. The White House worked to control damage. Elon's team worked to expand it. Each side watched the clock, each tick bringing them closer to the next chapter. Washington felt like a chessboard at dawn, pieces moving silently in the dark, each side waiting for the decisive play. The hidden games were no longer hidden. They were in plain sight, and the next move would shape the story's course for weeks to come. News alerts popped up on phones and TVs across the country. Viewers saw Elon Musk's latest upload, a blurred photo of a meeting agenda. Showed the words Private Dinner Project Aurora at the top, with bullet points beneath, tax credits, vendor approvals, and R&D grants. The date on the paper was clear, June 3rd. That single image sent shockwaves. By early morning, the hashtag Aurora agenda was trending on every social platform. People shared screenshots and took sides. Some cheered Musk for bringing hidden dealings. Too light, others called him a bully, using his fame to meddle in government affairs. News channels broke from regular programming. Panelists argued fiercely. At CNN, the morning show host Sarah Jacobs leaned forward, her eyes bright with urgency. "This could be the biggest political story of the year," she said. Behind her, a ticker rolled the image of the agenda document. "We have confirmation from Elon Musk's team that this agenda came from the First Lady's office. Lists meetings about tax policy favoring small tech firms." The White House called it a baseless claim, but now, faced with these concrete bullets, can they still deny it? Across town at NBC, the tone was different. Their panel debated whether Musk overstepped his role. "He's a businessman, not a politician," said one commentator. "This feels like an attack on the first family. Do we really want private dinners open to public scrutiny?" Another analyst replied, "When public resources and policies are at stake, citizens have a right to know if power is being used for private gain." Meanwhile, on social media, everyday people weighed in. In a small college town in Ohio, retired teacher Mary Henderson posted on her Facebook, "I've always admired Melania for her fashion sense and kindness with kids. But this agenda makes me wonder if she's using her influence for her own circle. It feels wrong." In Austin, a software engineer tweeted, "If Musk is right, we need to clean house in D.C., but if he's wrong, we need to hold him accountable. I want the facts." Back inside the White House, the mood was grim. News feeds flickered across screens in the West Wing. Rebecca Hollis and her team huddled in the press office. The holding statement they released last night had done little to calm the storm. Viewers saw the actual agenda, and denials felt empty. Kenneth Ford rubbed his forehead. He looked at the live CNN feed replaying Musk's image. There. Asking why these meetings were secret, he said, "We need a stronger response. Can't just say no agenda. We need to explain why private dinners happen and how they follow protocol." Rebecca nodded. "We should invite a respected third party to audit these meetings. It's maybe an independent counsel or ethics board. If we show we welcome oversight, it may restore some trust." Kenneth tapped his phone. "I'll draft an invitation to the Office of Government Ethics and to a well-known law firm. We'll ask them to review all meeting records related to Project Aurora and issue a public report." He glanced at Rebecca. "Might buy us some time." At the same time, Elon's team watched the reactions in their command center, a loft space filled with screens. They saw the White House announces an ethics review. Dana, one of Elon's advisors, smiled. "They have to start open, or she said now they look like they have something to hide." Raj pulled up his calendar. "Our next move should be careful. We've shown the agenda. Now we need more context. If we reveal one more document showing the benefits granted to those startups, it will complete the picture." He reached for his tablet. "I have a memo here that outlines how those startups received a fast-track approval for a $12 million R&D grant. Shall we blur the numbers but highlight the amounts?" Elon thought for a moment. "Yes, let's share it. Hold it for tomorrow evening. Give them time to spin this audit story, then hit them with proof of the results that came from those secret dinners." Back in the White House, Melania Trump prepared to make a televised statement. She sat in the East Room, bathed in soft light. Inside, her communications director, Sarah O'Brien, handed her a script. Melania read it aloud slowly. I welcome the independent review of all my office's activities. My sole goal has been to support American innovation and education. These private meetings were part of regular outreach to industry leaders, not secret schemes. I look forward to clearing the air. Melania paused and looked at Sarah. Should I mention the charities? People know me for my work with children. Sarah nodded. Yes. Add a short line about your foundation's new STEM program for underprivileged students. Melania smiled and read the addition. They sent the statement to the networks. Across America, people tuned in. Some felt reassured by her calm demeanor. Others remained skeptical. The question on everyone's mind: would the audit expose more, or would it clear the First Lady's name? In the Situation Room, Rebecca Hollis gathered the audit request letters and pressed send. She turned to Kenneth. Now we let the process begin. We need daily briefings on any developments, and we prepare our next statement based on their findings. Kenneth exhaled. Understood. Meanwhile, Elon took to Twitter again. He wrote, Transparency matters. Glad to see White House welcomes review. Looking forward to seeing full meeting records and grant details. Hashtag or agenda he posted alongside a link to the blurred memo he planned to release later. The tweet lit up with likes and retweets. As the day wore on, talk shows and opinion pages covered every angle. Legal experts debated whether the audit would be truly independent. Tech journalists speculated on how the startup stood to gain. Historians compared the affair to past political scandals. And everyday viewers disagreed in living rooms and lunchrooms. By late afternoon, the audit request letters arrived at the ethics office. Its director, a former federal judge known for principled stands, said he would assemble a small team. He requested access to all unclassified documents, emails, and guest lists for Project Aurora events. He also asked for a timeline of when policy suggestions were made and when they were enacted. At the White House, that news was both a relief and a new challenge. The independent review would show their commitment to transparency, but it could also uncover more surprises. Rebecca prepared a binder of materials to send, redacting anything classified but including all unclassified memos and emails. She instructed her team, be thorough. If they find nothing, it's our proof. If they find something, we will face it head-on. Meanwhile, in Elon's command center, Raj finished redacting the R&D grant memo. It clearly showed that after the June 3rd dinner, those small startups received expedited approval for a multi-million-dollar grant. The memo was dated June 17th. Elon posted a teaser on his social channels. Next, a memo showing how Project Aurora meetings led to big grants. Stay tuned tonight. By evening, the story had reached global headlines. London's Financial Times ran, Musk versus the White House. Tech clash in Washington. Tokyo's Nikkei highlighted the implications for Japanese investors in U.S. startups. And in small-town newspapers across Middle America, local editors wrote op-eds asking whether the First Lady could remain above political fray. In the West Wing, Rebecca Hollis paused as the latest alerts came in. The buzz about the ethics audit was strong, but she also saw Elon's teaser. She knew the next reveal could reopen wounds. She signaled to Kenneth, we need to prepare. New response for tonight's memo? Get our legal team ready to assess it as soon as it arrives. Kenneth nodded and slipped out of the room. He texted the legal counsel. Heads up, texted another Musk drop tonight. Be on standby. As dusk fell over Washington, a hush settled in both camps. Reporters reset their cameras. Social media users refreshed their feeds. Everyone waited for the next document, the next statement, the next spin. The public felt they were watching a great drama unfold in real time. In the White House, Melania Trump walked down a corridor with a colleague. She looked tired but determined. I want this to end, she said softly. I want people to remember my work, not this scandal. The aide put a hand on her shoulder. We will get through this. Just keep your focus on the good you do. Outside the gates, Elon Musk prepared for his next move. He checked the redacted memo one last time. He considered the power of transparency and the weight of responsibility. In a world where secrets could tip the balance of power, he knew this was more than a personal fight. It was a test of how open a democracy could be. At that moment, the public stage stood set for the final act of Part 4. Both sides braced for the upcoming reveal. Washington's streets hummed with anticipation, and millions watched. Wondering how this tech meets politics saga would reshape the future of power in America, the next chapter was calling and no one could afford to look away. As the evening settled over Washington, all eyes were on the ethics office. Reporters clustered outside its tall windows, waiting for word from the independent team reviewing Project Aurora. Inside, the former judge leading the review gathered his small staff. He laid out the unclassified materials the White House had provided: emails, guest lists, meeting notes, and statements. Each page was examined carefully, line by line, to see if Melania's office had tried to sway policy for a chosen few. Back at Elon Musk's command center, his team prepared the final memo. It was a clear document, dated June 17th, showing how those private dinners led to an expedited $12 million R&D grant for a handful of startups. The memo had 3 lines underlined: expedited approval, increased budget, and approved without competitive bidding. Elon knew this would be the last piece in the puzzle. He checked the text once more and sent it to his live stream channel with a simple note: tomorrow at 8 a.m., I'll go live with the final piece of evidence. Then we'll see how the White House responds. Meanwhile, at the White House, tension hung thick in the air. Rebecca Hollis moved between offices, speaking in hushed tones with legal counsel and communications directors. They had seen Musk's teaser about the grant memo. They worried it would undo any good that the ethics review had done. Kenneth Ford drafted statements, rehearsing each word to strike the right balance between confidence and caution. Melania's team practiced answers to potential questions, readying her for any interview requests. Across the city, ordinary citizens debated the affair. Some felt betrayed by the idea that private dinners could lead to millions in government grants for favored companies. Others worried that Elon Musk, with his vast wealth and fame, was using his power to shape politics. In coffee shops and office corridors, conversations buzzed with opinions on who was right. People wanted to believe in fair rules, but they also feared that powerful people always had an edge. The next morning at 8 a.m. sharp, Elon logged onto his live stream. The online service counted viewers climbing into the millions. He greeted the audience and reminded them why he had started this. I believe in transparency. When special favors are granted in secret, it hurts everyone. He clicked a button, and the memo appeared on screen. The lines about expedited approval and budget increases were easy to read. Elon highlighted each one. See this? He said. These startups got more money faster than others. The kind of grants that usually require months of competitive review. He paused and let the audience absorb the information. Some viewers in chat wrote unfair, or this is real. Others cheered his courage. After a moment, Elon continued. I have shown you everything I can share. No, I ask. The White House and the ethics office, is this appropriate? If these actions were in the public interest, show us the proof. If not, correct them. We all deserve rules that apply to everyone equally. On the other side of town, inside the ethics office, the review team had just completed its initial report. They saw those same documents. They had confirmed the dates, the attendees, and the grant details, but they also noted a key point. The policy that allowed expedited grants had been proposed publicly by a Senate committee months earlier when applied to all qualifying startups, not only those at the dinners. The dinners themselves were private meetings. They fell under the rules of official outreach events that many White House offices held. The former judge stood before his team. You have to be fair, he said. You see that those startups did fit the criteria for expedited review. Their applications met all the public guidelines. The private dinners did not create new rules. They discussed the process, but they did not rewrite it. Our role is to state these facts clearly. He drafted a brief summary. The dinner meetings fell under standard outreach protocols. The startups met existing criteria. Expedited grants were lawful. He planned to release the full report by midday, along with all unclassified documents. Back at the White House, Rebecca held her breath as her phone buzzed with an alert. The ethics report was scheduled for release at noon. She gathered her team in a small conference room. "We need to support the findings," she said. "Our statement will say we appreciate the thorough review and welcome the clarity it provides." She paused. "But we should also point out that policies are public and transparent, and that no rules were broken." Kenneth nodded. He typed a draft for the official White House account. "We thank the Independent Ethics Office for its prompt review. Their findings confirm that all programs related to Project Aurora complied with public guidelines. We remain committed to transparency and fair policy for all." He sent it to Rebecca for approval. By noon, the ethics office doors opened. The judge stepped outside with the final report in hand. A small crowd of reporters waited. He read a concise statement. "Our review finds that the private meetings, known as Project Aurora, were conducted under standard outreach protocols. All startups discussed met established criteria for expedited grants. No new policies were created solely for these companies. We release these findings and the supporting documents in the interest of public transparency." He handed the report to an aide, who passed it to waiting journalists. Flash photography split the air with camera clicks. The report was soon available on the ethics office website. Seconds later, news channels broke in with headlines. "Ethics Review. No rules broken in Project Aurora. White House cleared of secret tech agenda. Private dinners did not violate policy." Anchor desks buzzed as hosts discussed what it meant. Some said the First Lady had been vindicated. Others noted that the whole affair still raised questions about the timing and motivation of private meetings. Elon Musk watched the news in real time on a large screen in his office. He'd been tweeting responses as each new clip appeared. When the summary hit his feed, he paused. On screen, the anchor said the report cleared Melania's office of wrongdoing. Elon clicked his keyboard and typed, "Thank you for the review. It's good to see clarity. But let's all remember, transparency is an ongoing process. Keep the records open. Always." He looked at his team. "We did our part. We asked questions and got answers. That's how democracy works." He closed his laptop and leaned back. Across the city, Melania Trump received the news with relief. In her private residence, reviewing drafts for a new STEM education initiative, her communications director told her the report had cleared her office. She smiled softly and said, "I'm glad the truth is out." She decided to hold a small press event at the children's hospital she supported to focus attention back on her charity work. Rebecca Hollis watched the news in the West Wing. She felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The storm had passed, but the tension lingered. She turned to Kenneth. "Let's reach out to Elon's team and thank them for revealing documents. We want to maintain goodwill. Emphasize our commitment to openness." Kenneth nodded and drafted an email. In neighborhoods across the country, people logged on to read the full ethics report. Many were surprised to learn the relevant policy had been in place all along. Comments on news websites ranged from good to no to still feels shady, but the core facts were clear. No rule had been broken. In tech circles, the affair sparked discussion about the line between private outreach and public policy. Startups debated whether access to decision-makers really helped their chances. Some said it did. Others argued that application quality mattered most. On social media, the hashtag Aurora agenda lost its momentum. It was replaced by hashtag transparency wins and hashtag policy process. Elon Musk's final tweets were shared widely. His followers praised his persistence. Critics noted how quickly the truth had emerged when documents were released. As evening arrived, Washington's lights shone in windows. The city felt normal again, but with a new awareness. People understood how private meetings and public rules could intersect. They saw how a single tweet could spark a national conversation and how an open process could restore trust. Elon Musk closed his office door and walked outside into the cool air. He gazed at the Capitol skyline. He thought about power, influence, and the importance of asking questions. He believed the public deserved transparency, and he had helped deliver it. But he also knew that vigilance must continue. Inside the White House, Melania Trump visited the Children's Hospital later that night. She greeted young patients, listened to their stories, and encouraged them to dream big. Cameras caught her warm smile as she talked gently with a shy teenager interested in coding. It was the image she hoped people would remember. Rebecca Hollis packed up her laptop and notes. She looked around the Situation Room one last time before locking the door. She felt proud that the team had acted swiftly and responsibly, but she also recognized how fragile public trust could be. She knew that every day officials must work to keep transparency alive. And so, the saga of Project Aurora came to a close at least for now. A tech CEO had challenged a First Lady's office. The truth had been uncovered, and the public had seen both accusations and evidence. The aftermath left a lesson for everyone. In a democracy, secrets have a way of coming to light, and openness is the strongest safeguard of all.